War, they say, is hell. But within that inferno, you find stories that shine with a strange and powerful light. Stories of human ingenuity pushed to its absolute limit, of compassion in the face of unimaginable cruelty, and of events so surreal they border on the supernatural. These are the accounts that history books sometimes skim over, the footnotes that contain entire worlds of drama and disbelief. They remind us that behind the grand strategies and the casualty counts are individual human beings, caught in the gears of something vast and terrible, making choices that echo through time. Some stories are hard to hear. They speak of loss, of terrible mistakes, and of the darkness that can consume us. Others inspire a kind of awe, a sense of wonder at what people are capable of, for good or for ill. We're about to journey through 8 such moments, each one a testament to the unpredictable, often unbelievable nature of conflict. The port of Bari, Italy, buzzed with life. A key supply hub for the Allied forces pushing up the Italian peninsula. Ships sat heavy in the water, their bellies full of ammunition, food, and fuel. The men there felt a sense of security, a feeling that the German Luftwaffe was a spent force, unable to reach them this far south. But complacency, as it often does in war, breeds disaster. That evening, over 100 German bombers appeared in the sky, a swarm of angry hornets descending on the unsuspecting harbor. The raid was swift, brutal, and devastatingly effective. Bombs rained down, turning the tranquil port into a scene from Dante's Inferno. Ships exploded, sending fireballs hundreds of feet into the air. The water itself seemed to burn as thousands of tons of fuel spilled from ruptured tankers. But amidst the chaos of explosions and fire, a more sinister, invisible killer was unleashed. One of the ships, the American Liberty ship SS John Harvey, held a secret. A classified cargo of 2,000 M47A1 mustard gas bombs, brought to Europe as a grim retaliatory measure, just in case the Germans used chemical weapons first. The bombs were not meant to be there, not in a crowded port. But war has a way of scrambling plans. When the John Harvey was hit, it didn't just sink. It detonated, vaporizing its deadly payload into a toxic cloud that mingled with the smoke and oil. A poisonous mist settled over the harbor and drifted into the city. Sailors who dove into the water to escape the flames found themselves coated in an oily slick of mustard agent. Rescuers pulled men from the harbor, covered in what they thought was just fuel oil. They wrapped them in warm blankets, a compassionate act that, tragically, only accelerated the chemical's absorption into the skin. The doctors were baffled. They saw horrific weeping burns, blindness, and respiratory failure that didn't match any conventional injury. The truth was a casualty of war, buried under layers of military secrecy. For days, the Allied command denied the presence of chemical weapons, leaving doctors to treat a mystery illness that claimed more and more lives. By the time the truth was quietly admitted, it was too late for many. Over 1,000 military personnel and countless Italian civilians died from the toxic exposure. The Bari chemical disaster remains one of the worst of its kind in history, a chilling reminder that sometimes, in the fog of war, the greatest danger can come from the weapons you carry yourself. There are prisons, and then there is Colditz, a Gothic castle perched on a cliffside in Germany, reserved for the most troublesome, escape-prone Allied officers of World War II. The Germans thought it was escape-proof. The prisoners, well, they considered that a challenge. They tried everything. Tunnels, disguises, building a glider in the attic. But one of the most ingenious plans involved not a grand feat of engineering, but a simple act of deception. It centered around a man who wasn't a man at all. His name was Franz Josef, and he was a dummy. The plan was hatched by a small group of French officers. It was simple in its audacity. 2 men would hide. At the evening roll call, or appel, their friends would carry the dummy, disguised as a French officer, out into the courtyard and prop him up in the back row. The dummy, affectionately named Franz, was a work of art born from desperation. A wire frame for a body, a mattress cover for his uniform, painted paper for his face, real human hair for his head. He was designed to be just convincing enough to pass a cursory glance from a weary German guard counting heads in the fading light. The tension during those roll calls must have been unbearable. Imagine standing in formation, your heart pounding in your chest, trying to act nonchalant while a few feet away. A guard's eyes sweep over a mannequin you've propped up between you. You pray he doesn't look too closely. You pray he doesn't notice that this particular officer is unnaturally still, that his gaze is fixed, that he never, ever blinks. For the escapees, Lieutenant Boucheron, Lieutenant Leroy, every second the ruse held was another second closer to the wire. While the guards were busy counting the living and the inanimate, the two real men were scaling walls and making their break for freedom. The ruse worked, not just once, but multiple times. The dummy passed inspection, fooling the meticulous German administration and buying precious time. Eventually, of course, the dummy was discovered. A suspicious guard, perhaps noticing the officer's rigid posture one time too many, walked up and poked him, only for Franz Josef to collapse in a heap of wire and cloth. But by then, it was too late. The men he had stood in for were long gone, making their way toward the Swiss border. Some places are just names on a map, until war makes them unforgettable. Tarawa is one of those places. A tiny atoll in the middle of the Pacific, nothing more than a strip of sand. In November 1943, it became the scene of one of the bloodiest, most ferocious battles for the history of the United States Marine Corps. The plan seemed straightforward: massive naval bombardment. Marines waiting ashore. But the sea had other ideas. The enemy had other ideas. The problems began with the tide. The planners had miscalculated. The coral reef surrounding the main island of Baitio was far shallower than expected, a deadly trap for the landing craft. Higgins boats, loaded with Marines, ground to a halt hundreds of yards from the beach. The naval bombardment, as powerful as it was, had failed to destroy the heavily fortified Japanese bunkers. As the ramps of the landing craft dropped, the Marines were faced with an impossible choice: stay in the vulnerable boats, or step out into a churning, waist-deep expanse of water with no cover. They were ordered out. What followed was a slaughter. The Japanese, deeply entrenched and waiting, opened up with a hellish crossfire of machine guns and mortars. The water between the reef and the beach became a killing field. Men were cut down in droves as they struggled through the surf, weighed down by their gear, with nowhere to hide. The sea, churned by bullets and explosions, began to run red with the blood of the fallen. It was a brutal, agonizingly slow advance, measured in feet, paid for with lives. For the men pinned down, it was 76 hours of pure, unrelenting horror. By nightfall, the scene was apocalyptic. The tide receded, exposing the reef littered with the bodies of hundreds of Marines caught in the open water. The survivors who made it to the beach clung to a narrow strip of sand, fighting with bayonets, fighting with flamethrowers, to gain even a foothold against an enemy determined to fight to the last man. Courage comes in many forms. The courage of a soldier on the battlefield, facing down enemy fire, and another kind of courage, quieter, more profound, that shines in the darkest places. This is the story of Irina Sendler, a Polish social worker. In Nazi-occupied Warsaw, she saw an evil that threatened to swallow humanity. She decided she would not let it. She fought back, not with a gun, but with a toolbox, with a coffin, and with a heart full of defiance. As a plumber and sewer worker, she gained access to the Warsaw Ghetto. She witnessed unspeakable suffering, and with each visit, she smuggled a child out, sedated and hidden in the bottom of her toolbox, concealed in potato sacks, placed in coffins, passed off as typhus victims. She used ambulances, sewers, secret passages through courthouse buildings. each trip a dance with death. Discovery meant immediate execution. She was part of a small network of brave women. Irina's role was central. She also saved their identities. She wrote each child's real name and new name on tiny slips of paper. She sealed those lists in glass jars and buried them beneath an apple tree in a friend's garden. Eventually, the Gestapo came for her. Arrested in 1943, taken to Paviak prison. Brutally tortured, they broke her feet and her legs, but they could not break her spirit. She never betrayed names or locations, sentenced to death, and then saved at the last moment. The Polish resistance bribed a guard who faked her execution and left her unconscious in the woods. She survived the war and lived to be 98. She saved 2,500 children, an ordinary woman who became a legend. Some stories don't make sense. A B-17 hit by flak. The crew bails out over Belgium. But the plane did not crash. Trimmed and on autopilot, it flew on. A ghost ship in the sky. It circled, lined up, and performed a textbook belly landing in a muddy field near Kortrijk. Engines idling, no crew aboard. The cockpit was vacant, parachutes gone. Only personal effects remained. Chance and mechanics delivered the impossible. One of the war's most enduring mysteries. History is not just dates and battles. It is terror, bravery, ingenuity, and sheer dumb luck. These moments defy expectations and challenge what we think is possible. They teach us about unforeseen consequences, the power to resist, the cleverness of prisoners, and the moral compass of rescuers. Behind every statistic is a human face, a story waiting to be told. Sometimes, the truth is more unbelievable than fiction. The past is never truly past. It echoes in the present. These stories deserve to be remembered. They are our shared human experience, resilience, and madness. History is full of moments that sound impossible, but they happened. Subscribe for more unreal but true war stories.